Tonight, you'll flip a switch without thinking. Light will fill the room in under a second. For 99.9% of the time humans have existed, that switch didn't exist. When the sun set, the world didn't dim. It vanished. No moon, no clouds, and you couldn't find your own hand in front of your face. Every one of your ancestors, for over 300,000 years, spent roughly half their life inside that darkness. For most of it, they didn't even have candles.
Just black sky, a handful of stars, and whatever fire they could keep from dying.
So what filled those hours?
Fire made all of this possible. The earliest solid evidence of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, roughly 1 million years ago. Fire didn't just warm people. It rebuilt the human day. Before fire, our ancestors lived like every other primate. When the sun went down, you climbed a tree or found a sheltered ledge and froze. Moving after dark meant becoming someone else's dinner. Human eyes are weak in darkness. Leopards, hyenas, wolves. Every predator around us could see just fine. Fire flipped that equation overnight. A campfire buys you a circle of safety about 30 feet wide. Step outside that circle and the odds turn against you. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have documented this danger still exists today. People who wander from the fire at night are still far more likely to be killed by predators. Fire's real gift wasn't just protection, it handed humans extra hours. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset. 12 hours in summer, as few as 8 in winter. Fire added 2 to 4 more usable hours to every single day.
Multiply that across thousands of generations, and those extra hours reshaped our species.
In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She spent years recording conversations among the Zhuangzi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth living close to the original human rhythm. During daylight, 80% of conversation was practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ready? Daytime talk was work.
At night, that flipped.
81% of conversation around the fire turned into story.
Tales of distant people, adventures, myths about how the world began.
Jokes that set the whole camp laughing. Wiesner argued firelight conversation is where human culture was actually born. The fire was the first theater, the first classroom, the first church.
It's where we learned to imagine things that didn't exist yet.
The night wasn't just about stories around the fire. Something else was happening. Something scientists only rediscovered in the last 30 years. You were never built to sleep the way you sleep tonight. In 2001, historian Roger Eckerich published a paper that quietly upended sleep science. He'd spent 16 years digging through records, over 500 references spanning centuries. Prayer books from the 1400s, court records, diaries, medical texts, even lines in Homer's Odyssey, all pointing at the same thing: a first sleep and a second sleep. Before the industrial age, nobody slept in one continuous block. People went to bed shortly after sunset, slept about 4 hours, then woke. They stayed up for an hour or two in the middle of the night, then slept another 4 hours until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. This was simply how humans slept. A 16th century French physician recommended couples conceive children during this window. He believed they'd do it better. Others visited neighbors. Some read their dreams while the details were still fresh. Many just lay in the dark, thinking. A doctor's manual from the 1500s called this stretch the watch, the quiet hours between first and second sleep, when the mind was calm. Historians had been reading these references for centuries. They kept mistranslating first sleep into something else. Nobody could imagine people ever sleeping differently than we do now. Then, science accidentally confirmed what the history books had been saying. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment. He stripped a group of volunteers of all artificial light. For a month, they lived through 14 hours of true darkness every night. Within weeks, every participant fell into the exact exact same rhythm. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, then 4 more hours of sleep.
Nobody told them to do this. It surfaced on its own, as if an old program had been sitting dormant, waiting to switch back on.
Ware measured their hormones during that waking window.
Their brains were flooding with prolactin, the hormone released during meditation and after orgasm.
They described the state as peaceful, reflective, almost meditative.
It wasn't a gap in sleep, it was its own state of consciousness.
So what erased it? Light.
In the 1600s, cities started installing street lamps.
Paris was among the first, under Louis XIV, aiming to cut down crime.
London followed soon after.
Then came cheaper candles, then gas lamps in the 1800s.
In 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. Within a generation, the night humans had known for hundreds of thousands of years was gone. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu, literally cover the fire.
In medieval towns, a bell rang each night, signaling everyone to smother their fires.
Not for safety, because night was supposed to be dark.
Night was for sleeping. Night was when you were exposed.
Being outside after dark was treated as suspicious by default.
In many medieval European cities, walking without a lantern was flatly illegal. Night belonged to criminals, and whatever people believed lurked beyond the firelight.
Then we conquered it. We flooded the dark with light and called it progress.
Today, the average person is exposed to artificial light 7 to 8 hours after sunset. Much of it, the blue light pouring off our screens. That light suppresses melatonin, the hormone that tells your body it's time to sleep.
Your brain can't tell a bulb from the sun. When light hits your retina at 11 at night, your brain reads it as daytime.
Sleep gets fragmented. A rhythm evolved over millions of years gets quietly overridden.
Researchers found that people who camp for 1 week with zero artificial light reset their melatonin clocks. Their bodies start producing melatonin at sunset again instead of hours later. That's all it takes for 300,000 years of programming to switch back on. We didn't just change our bedtime. We erased an entire phase of human consciousness.
The calm, reflective state between first and second sleep simply doesn't exist for most people anymore.
Instead, we call it insomnia and treat it like something broken.
What if waking at 2 a.m. and lying there in the dark isn't malfunction? What if it's memory?
For 300,000 years, your ancestors moved through a nightly rhythm modern science is only now starting to map. They gathered at fires and told the stories that built civilizations. They slept in 2 halves with a window of stillness in between. They lived under a darkness so complete that the Milky Way was just the sky. Every night, in that quiet window, they lay there and thought about their lives, their dreams, and the world waiting at dawn. We traded all of it for a light switch. Most of us never even noticed it was gone.